Sandy, the beloved therapy dog who frequently assisted GovState students and faculty, sadly passed away on July 25th. She was 14 years old. Sandy and her trainer and owner, Steve Hisney, had been a staple on campus for almost a decade. For 8 years, the duo would lend their time and presence to the school, helping to alleviate student and faculty alike of their stress. Often found in the campus's library multiple times a month, Sandy offered her companionship to anyone who needed it, helping many through stressful midterms weeks and semester ends with just a wag of her tail. After a long and fruitful career of being a staple of GSU's campus, Sandy retired at the end of the 2025 spring semester. Beyond just GovState, she was also an adored and celebrated community member, as well as having international fans due to her social media accounts. Efforts are currently underway by Hisney to establish a scholarship in her name. The community extends their eternal gratitude to Sandy and to Hisney for sharing their time with the college. Her comforting presence will be missed. For GovState News, this is Graham Taylor. On August 14th, President Trump deployed the National Guard to Washington, D.C. under the guise of fighting crime. D.C. citizens are furious at the authoritarian move, fighting against Trump and his dictator-esque grandstanding. In general, National Guard members report to their state's governors. But since D.C. is not a state, control of the D.C. National Guard falls to the president, which is part of the reason he was able to enable the occupation of D.C. at all. Even with that restriction in mind, Trump and his administration are already planning on deploying the Guard to other Democratic cities. On Thursday, August 29th, Tom Homan, the Director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, threatened during a press conference that ICE presence across the country would ramp up, but Chicago in particular would see an increase in the agency's presence. Mayor Brandon Johnson, Governor JB Pritzker, and Chicago Police Department Superintendent Larry Snelling have all spoken out against this action, with Snelling announcing that the CPD would not be assisting in any ICE operations or raids.
Over the weekend, we learned from the media that Donald Trump has been planning for quite a while now to deploy armed military personnel to the streets of Chicago. This is exactly the type of overreach that our country's founders warned against. And it's the reason that they established a federal system with a separation of powers built on checks and balances. What President Trump is doing is unprecedented and unwarranted. It is illegal. It is unconstitutional. It is un-American. It's un-American, if you ask me, invading a city with troops. A U.S. president invading an American city with troops. I'm 60 years old. I've never heard of such a thing. It shouldn't happen.
All three have also reported that the Trump administration has not reached out to them or given any number about how many agents will be present. Despite the president's false claim that crime is out of control all over the country, violent crime is not only down at the national level, but also locally. According to a report published by the Chicago Sun-Times, Chicago has seen a 36% decrease in shootings and a 33% decrease in homicides when compared to this time last year. In addition, homicides in Chicago overall have decreased by 25% since 2019. Sending troops to Chicago and D.C. is nothing more than a thinly veiled threat against liberal cities, as well as cities with large minority populations. If you are approached by ICE or any law enforcement officer while at home, remember that you have rights. You do not have to open the door for anyone without a signed judiciary warrant. If a warrant is presented to you, make sure it is signed by a judge before opening the door. You also have the right to remain silent granted under the Fifth Amendment. If you are detained, it is recommended that you do not speak unless your lawyer is present if you are able to access one. For GovState News, this is Graham Taylor. Democratic lawmakers from Texas briefly fled the state at the beginning of August in order to delay the plans by their state's Republican lawmakers to redistrict Texas. The governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, scheduled a special legislative session for July 21st, with redistricting the state being one of the policy items to be addressed. Redistricting is the practice of redrawing political boundaries within states, and usually takes place every 10 years, after the census. Redistricting between censuses is uncommon and usually seen as a ploy to gain more political power in between elections. The Texas Republicans' plan to redistrict the state this year comes directly from the behest of President Trump urging them to do so. Over 50 Texas Democrats fled the state earlier this month in an effort to hinder the redistricting plan. The Democratic lawmakers arrived in Illinois and New York on August 3rd after fleeing their home state. In doing so, they denied Republicans the necessary quorum needed to pass the redistricting plan. In response to the Democrats' departure, Republican lawmakers issued warrants for their arrest, though they were powerless to be enforced outside of the state. Upon their return to the state at the end of August, the redistricting plan went through anyways. Republican lawmakers also held those who fled the state captive at the Capitol building, unless the Democratic lawmakers signed an agreement to not leave the state, enforced by a state cop that would escort them. Nicole Collier was the only Democratic representative to not sign the agreement and spent her first night back in the House chambers. She has filed a lawsuit against House leadership in response. By leaving the state and delaying the vote, the Texas Democrats were able to bring national attention to the issue, as well as organize with out-of-state Democrats. In response to the redistricting, California and Illinois Democratic leaders have both put plans into motion to redistrict their own states next year in order to offset the gerrymandering in Texas. Texas Democrats have also vowed to slow the redistricting in any way they can, including legally challenging it via lawsuit. For GovState News, this is Graham Taylor. The Trump administration revealed plans at the end of June to build a detainment center in the Florida Everglades. The concentration camp was completed within days, despite lawsuits from local environmental groups and native tribes to prevent its construction. Cruelly dubbed Alligator Alcatraz by the administration, the facility admitted its first victims during the first week of July. The site was built on a mostly abandoned airfield using disaster relief funds, with the intent being to use said airfield to deport detainees that were arrested quickly and usually illegally by recent immigration and customs enforcement raids around the country. Most of the people detained have no criminal history whatsoever. The camp opened with a capacity of 5,000 beds, but was intended to grow double that. However, after almost 2 months of operation, a U.S. district judge had ordered that the center be shut down and emptied. The injunction issued by Judge Kathleen Williams was in response to one of the lawsuits filed by the Miccosukee tribe, Friends of the Everglades, and another environmental group before construction of the site had been completed. Even with its relatively short lifespan, the concentration center still inflicted horrors upon its inmates.
This is sad, hopeless. It's a type of torture.
Because of the way that we have been treated, it has been a very terrible experience.
32 people per cell, or per cage, really, because this is a cage. It's a metal cage strapped in with zip ties.
It has been reported by The Guardian that inmates within the chain-link walls of the prison were living in unclean conditions, with sickness running rampant.
The toilets, when it rains, they overflow, and the cells we're in fill up with sewage.
Every time it does rain and storm, the toilets clog up.
Yesterday, the air conditioning went out. We had the whole morning without air conditioning. Lots of mosquitoes came in because they get in from all sides.
All the showers are connected to the same water source. There's barely any water pressure. So we have to literally put ourselves on the wall right next to the water drainage so we can at least get hit with water.
They follow you when you're walking to the shower with your hands on your head, as if you were a prisoner. The water is very hot, very hot. They don't give you enough time. Mosquitoes are biting you in the shower. There are more mosquitoes than water.
Inmates also reported being coerced or otherwise lied to about signing voluntary removal orders and not receiving their due process. Inmates also participated in a hunger strike for 14 days to protest their living conditions.
We can't sleep. I have to personally put a rag on top of my head to at least try to take a nap because the lights are so bright. There's 24 LED lights in the roof and it's like shining bright.
I no longer know when it's daytime or when it's nighttime. I don't sleep. It's affecting me mentally and physically.
Scan our bracelets, we go into the food hall. The food is very terrible here. Very, very, very small portions. People are having a hard time living here because they're starving. Probably a quarter cup of rice.
We've eaten as late as 10 at night. The food at night is cold, too. There's never a hot meal.
We're in the middle of the Everglades with constant reminder that we're locked up in a cage and anything can happen. A hurricane can hit us and we can all die and nobody would know.
On August 29th, local news station Noticias 23 reported that an uprising was taking place in the camp and the guards were indiscriminately beating inmates. In the last days of August, 300 people still remained at the site, though it is expected to be empty by the first week of September. Now that the detainment center is on its last leg, the ICE agency as a whole must follow suit. Abolishing ICE and prosecuting the agency's crimes are going to be an important step in restoring American democracy and American trust in government.
Nobody here has been able to see a loved one. Nobody has been able to see a lawyer here. Nobody has... It sucks. It sucks. There's no physical contact with the outside world other than these phone calls. It's not really more about me. It's about not being able to see my son. He's 6. He's about to turn 7 in November. And I don't even know if I'm going to be able to see him for his birthday.
For GovState News, this is Graham Taylor. The genocide in Gaza continues to worsen as Israel begins to prepare for a full occupation of the territory. Even after almost 2 full years of relentless military strikes and months of forced starvation, Israel is once again intensifying its genocide on Palestine as the IDF is preparing for a full-scale invasion of Gaza, with the end goal being total occupation, as announced by the state in mid-August. This announcement led to international backlash condemning this genocidal course of action. The Palestinian death toll is now officially over 63,000, though it is likely much higher, as the IDF continues to target non-military locations, such as schools and hospitals, with the majority of those casualties being civilians and children. On August 25th, an Israeli airstrike targeting Nasir Hospital in Gaza City hit its target. Minutes later, as rescuers and journalists were arriving on the scene and entering the hospital, a second strike was launched at the same location. The resulting attacks left 21 dead, including 5 Palestinian journalists, as reported by Al Jazeera. Ahmed Abu Aziz, a husband as well as a reporter and cameraman for the Middle East Eye and other publications. Hussam El-Masri, a husband as well as a cameraman and contractor for Routers. Mariam Abu Dhaka, a mother to a 13-year-old boy, as well as a reporter and contributor to the AP and Independent Arabia. Mohammed Salama, a fiancé as well as a photojournalist for Al Jazeera, and Mawaz Abu Taha, a brother as well as a freelance video journalist, were all killed in the same strike. The 6th journalist, Hassan Duhan, was also killed on the same day in a separate Israeli strike. With their deaths, Israel has now killed over 270 journalists since October 2023. Even as Israel ramps up its brutal campaign, some nations around the world are finally beginning to recognize Palestine as an independent state, as well as condemn Israel's actions. Canada, France, the UK, and Australia have all announced their intention to recognize Palestinian statehood at an upcoming UN General Assembly meeting being held in New York throughout September. However, even with the new international recognition, Palestinians face mounting opposition, including from the United States, who refuses to recognize Palestine as a state, has veto power to prevent Palestinian statehood, and has been arming Israel since before the beginning of the conflict. On top of that, over 80 Palestinian officials, including President Mohammed Abbas, had their visas revoked just a month before the UN Assembly. The meeting is being jointly hosted by the United States, France, and Saudi Arabia, and is being held in the UN headquarters in New York. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced the plan to revoke the visas on August 29th, an action that has led to international objection. The UN's foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas, French Foreign Minister Jean-Noel Barrot, and Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez all spoke out against this course of action, urging the United States to reinstate the visas. As the genocide continues still, people around the world continue to protest military involvement in Gaza, with citizens inside of Israel itself even protesting their military's action. The actions that Israel and its allies are perpetrating are not just immoral, they are also unpopular, and until the violence comes to an end, citizens internationally will continue to march. For GovState News, this is Graham Taylor.
A meet and greet with individuals pardoned by President Donald Trump for involvement in the January 6th insurrection has been canceled in Monterey County, California. This event was already heavily criticized online, with people saying it promoted convicted criminals. Come show your support, meet the patriots who spent time in federal prison, hear their stories about their experiences as political hostages, an event flyer read. This event was intended to be held by a group known as the Association of Monterey Bay Conservatives, set to take place at Bayonet Black Horse Golf Club in Seaside at 6 o'clock p.m. Bayonet Black Horse Golf Club says they were unaware of what the space was being used for, but when they found out, ended up canceling the event. After receiving multiple calls by members of the community who protested against it. But the host of the event responded negatively to this cancellation, which caused them to spur obscenities at Bayonet Black Horse workers. For GovState News, this has been Jada Thompson.
The People's Union USA is leading an economic blackout tour from February 28th to July 4th, 2025. According to the group's website, the economic blackout is an act of resistance to protest the influence of billionaires, big corporations, and both political parties on the lives of working Americans. On February 28th, consumers are instructed to not shop in store, online, and not spend money on gas or fast food. They are also advised to refrain from using credit or debit cards for non-essential spending. The People's Union website also noted that while necessary essentials such as food and medicine are expected to be bought, they recommend shopping from small or local businesses. February 28th is just the beginning of the tour. Throughout the next few months, there are boycotts from Amazon, Nestle, General Mills, Walmart, Target, McDonald's, and an Independence Day boycott on July 4th. These businesses were specifically chosen to boycott following the rollbacks of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Although People's Union founder John Swartz only began posting about his idea for this movement and boycott in late January and early February of 2025, it still accumulated a large amount of support. Schwartz posted to his Instagram that the first economic blackout was a success. Although true numbers of economic effects haven't been determined, Schwartz spoke about the mass participation in the blackout. This is Annalia Vey with GovState News.
Walgreens has agreed to pay over $2.8 million to settle allegations of overbilling Medicaid programs in Georgia and Massachusetts for generic medications. The U.S. Department of Justice announced this settlement on Thursday, March 27th. Between 2008 and 2023, Walgreens pharmacies reportedly submitted inflated usual and customary prices for certain generic medications, leading MassHealth and Georgia Medicaid programs to overpay. As part of the settlement, Walgreens will pay around $800,000 to the U.S., $200,000 to Georgia, and $600,000 to Massachusetts. It's noteworthy that this is in Walgreens' first encounter with such allegations. In September 2024, the company agreed to pay around $106.8 million to resolve claims of submitting false billing to federal health care programs between 2009 and 2020. These developments highlight ongoing concerns regarding billing practices within the pharmaceutical industry. This has been Noah Norris for GovState News. A dramatic rescue took place Thursday, March 13th in San Juan Capistrano, California, when a man was saved from a vehicle stuck in a flooded creek. The area has been experiencing heavy rainfall, which has caused widespread flooding and hazardous conditions. Swift water rescue crews were quickly deployed and managed to pull the man from his vehicle, which was trapped in fast-moving water. He was transported to a local hospital, but his condition has not been confirmed at this time. The rain has caused significant flooding in low-lying areas, and rescue teams have been working around the clock to assist those in need. Emergency services reached the scene quickly despite the dangerous conditions. Authorities are advising residents to avoid flooded areas and take precautions as more rain is expected to fall in the coming hours. Emergency crews are on high alert as the storm continues to affect the region. This has been Noah Norris for GovState News.
On Wednesday, February 12th, a Milwaukee police officer was shot and killed by a man walking along the street with a semi-automatic rifle. Milwaukee Police Chief Jeffrey Norman did not release the name or age of the officer killed, but did share a statement.
This is not acceptable. This type of actions, this type of behavior must stop.
Another officer, 34 years old, was shot in the leg during the shootout and left in an ambulance in serious condition. He went into surgery Wednesday afternoon. The shootout occurred just before noon after police received a call about an armed man who was firing shots near North 27th Street and West Wisconsin Avenue. David Holman, who teaches music at a church in the area, recounts his thought process while shots were fired.
Get the hell down. Like, what else do you do? You know, get down.
The man with the rifle was later shot and killed by police, which Josephine Weston says she saw with her own eyes.
I seen him when he collapsed, and I seen him when they was firing at him. The police was firing at him. Just saying that, I was just crying. You know, because that could have been somebody in my family.
Antonio Thompson lives in the area and says he heard the shots as well.
I was just upstairs in my bedroom, and I have windows open, and then all of a sudden I just hear probably like 10 gunshots go super loud, and some of them like mess with my ears.
This is Analia Vey reporting for GSU TV.
American tech stocks fell sharply on January 27th following the announcement of DeepSeek, a Chinese generative artificial intelligence competitor to American AI groups like ChatGPT and OpenAI. NVIDIA, the tech company responsible for the manufacturing of high-demand computer chips used in AI machines, saw their market value plummet by $600 billion. In total, the American tech market saw a total loss of over $1 trillion in market valuation. DeepSeek uses a different computational architecture compared to most American AI technology, making it cheaper to develop and in turn, cheaper for the customers. The DeepSeek app overtook ChatGPT and other popular AI apps in the App Store and on Google Play the week it was released. According to DeepSeek, their AI system cost less than $6 million to create in less than 2 months. This is a stark difference to the billions American tech companies have poured into AI technology over the past few years. While the tech stocks have begun to recover over the course of February, the future of AI is still volatile. Many in the tech industry see it as the next big breakthrough, but regular consumers and those in creative fields aren't as certain, with many openly opposing the technology. On February 24th, Microsoft announced that they would be canceling leases for an unspecified number of AI data centers. A spokesperson for the company said that Microsoft still intends to spend $80 billion in AI technologies this fiscal year. For GSU TV, this is Graham Taylor.
A powerful storm is slamming California, bringing heavy rain, strong winds, and a threat of dangerous mudslides. Officials are warning residents in high-risk areas to be prepared for potential evacuations as the rain continues to soak already saturated ground. Emergency response teams are working around the clock to prepare for the worst. Crews are cleaning storm drains, reinforcing hillsides, and placing sandbags in flood-prone areas. With the ground already weakened by previous storms, even a small amount of additional rainfall could trigger dangerous mudslides. Some communities, particularly those near recent wildfire burn scars, are at even higher risk. These areas have less vegetation to hold the soil in place, making them especially vulnerable to mudslides. For now, residents are being asked to prepare by packing emergency kits, keeping an eye on local alerts, and staying ready to leave if necessary. This has been Noah Norris for GSU TV. On Friday, March 21st, 2025, there was a massive fire near Heathrow Airport in the UK that has caused major disruptions. A fire at the North Hyde electrical substation triggered a widespread power outage, forcing Heathrow, one of the world's busiest airports, to shut down for an entire day. Over 1,300 flights were canceled or diverted, impacting nearly 290,000 travelers. Many passengers were left stranded as airlines scrambled to assist with rebooking and accommodations. In response, UK officials have launched an urgent investigation into the fire, raising concerns about the resilience of critical infrastructure. Currently, some flights are now resuming, but delays continue. This has been Noah Norris for GovState News. .
I'm looking for someone.
Common story around here. Someone you care about or someone you hate?
Oh, what a great question. What say you, Miss McClain?
Welcome to Hollywood Buzz, your source for the latest news in the entertainment industry. I'm your host, Graham Taylor, and today we'll be looking at upcoming releases, celebrity news, and the latest from Hollywood. Let's get started. The first trailer for the second season of Amazon's popular series Fallout has been released. Based on the video game franchise, Season 2 prepares to take viewers to the fan-favorite location of New Vegas. Season 2 of Fallout will be streaming on Amazon Prime on December 17th.
The world will know you as pop stars.
Streaming giant Netflix also has a hit on their hands with a theatrical release of K-pop Demon Hunters. Originally released on their streaming service, K-pop Demon Hunters has been breaking records since its release, with 4 songs from its soundtrack hitting the Billboard Top 100 at the end of last month.
I didn't want any of this. I'm a monster.
You're not a monster.
The cult classic superhero The Toxic Avenger is returning to the big screen in a new reboot series starring Peter Dinklage. Premiering in 2023 and having been in production for almost a decade prior to that, the film finally received a theatrical release this year on August 29th. NBC's long-running Saturday Night Live series is experiencing a significant cast shakeup following its 50th season. Heidi Gardner, Michael Longfellow, Emil Wakim, and Devin Walker are all departing from the show, the largest exodus of cast members since 8 people left at the end of the 2022 season. Rapper and Grammy-winning artist Cardi B is on trial for assault after an altercation with a security guard back in 2018. The suit was filed in 2020, and courtroom proceedings began at the end of August. Cardi B took the stand on August 26th, and the trial is expected to continue into the first week of September. For GovState News, this has been Graham Taylor with the latest Hollywood Buzz.